The year was 2342. For humanity, this era was one of quiet growth. Earth was a small, new member of the vast organization known as the Galactic Concord. Humans were known as peace lovers, focused on building new colonies, studying the stars, and moving forward slowly. They believed in the Concord's laws and its promise of order, a place where all species could grow safely together. Humanity was not powerful, but they were hopeful. A symbol of this hope was the colony vessel, the Icarus. It was a ship meant for life, not war. Inside its huge, curving hull, thousands of civilian colonists were asleep in cryostasis, dreaming of a new green world among the stars. The ship also held essential pieces of Earth's history: books, music, art, and knowledge, everything needed to restart a culture. It was traveling to the fringes of Concord space, a peaceful journey meant to spread life. Then came the silence. The Cathar hegemony was a dominant species, built on military power and the habit of telling others what to do. As the Icarus passed near a line the Cathar considered their own, they attacked. The massive, cruel alien vessels did not send a warning or ask for a course change. They simply opened fire. The Icarus was torn apart. Thousands of lives instantly turned to dust. The Cathar quickly claimed the human ship was a spy vessel that had violated their sovereign space. But soon, secret messages began to leak out. The attack had been deliberate, a cold act of violence meant to send a message to Earth: stop growing, stay small, and stay silent. Alex Stone received the news in a small, quiet room on Earth. He had been a decorated starship pilot, skilled and honored, but he was now just a man who had lost everything. His wife, his young daughter, they had both been aboard the Icarus, excited about a new life. The loss broke him. He did not seek revenge, he sought justice. Alex trusted the Galactic Concord. He believed that even if the Cathar were strong, the law was stronger. He put his faith in the system that was supposed to protect everyone. The Concord met to discuss the crime. For weeks, the great chambers of the Galactic Council buzzed with talk. Earth's ambassador, Grace Harper, stood before the council, her voice clear as she presented the evidence of the massacre and the Cathar's lies. She demanded punishment and recognition that a horrific crime had taken place. But fear ruled the Concord. The dominant species were afraid of Cathar military retaliation. Finally, the verdict came down. A shameful compromise. The incident was ruled a tragic misunderstanding. Earth was offered a large sum of financial compensation, money for lives, and was publicly scolded for provoking the aggressive Cathar. The message was clear: stay in your lane, little planet, or suffer worse. Ambassador Grace Harper's face was stone as she received the ruling. Later that day, she stood alone and broadcast the Concord's cowardly resolution to the entire population of Earth. Her words were sharp, not with anger, but with profound disappointment. She did not raise her voice, but her message resonated deeper than any battle cry. They have told us our lives are worth less than their fear. She did not ask for war, but for Earth to simply remember this moment of ultimate betrayal. Alex Stone watched the broadcast with his friend, Ben Miller, a brilliant civilian engineer. They sat in Ben's dusty garage, surrounded by half-finished pieces of experimental technology. Alex felt the last piece of hope break inside him. Justice had not failed. It had simply sold them out. Ben, quieter than Alex, only looked down at his hands. "They just bought them off," he whispered, shaking his head. "They gave them a fine for murder." Alex did not look away from the screen, where the face of Ambassador Harper was replaced by the silent Concord emblem. He felt a cold, sharp clarity wash over him, a feeling far heavier than grief. He finally understood. The galaxy, through its inaction and fear, had committed a crime against humanity. The time for diplomacy was finished. "They took everything," Alex said, his voice flat. He pushed himself up from the seat. "They think we'll forget. They think they can protect the criminals." He looked at Ben, a spark of resolve replacing the long shadow of his pain. "That won't happen. Not anymore." A line had been crossed. The time for humanity to answer had begun. The shock of the Galactic Concord's ruling did not last long on Earth. It was replaced by a cold, unified decision. If the galaxy would not enforce justice, humanity would do it itself. The world government moved quickly and silently, hiding its true intentions from the Concord spies. Ambassador Grace Harper, the woman who had spoken with such clarity about the betrayal, was immediately promoted to a military rank and given full authority. She was now General Harper, and her first command was Project Retribution. The goal was not to prepare for a long, traditional war. Earth knew it could not beat the Cathar hegemony's main fleet in open combat. The Cathar had too many ships, too much power. Instead, Project Retribution was about swift, targeted vengeance. The aim was to execute the specific Cathar leaders who had ordered the Icarus destroyed. It was a message that had to be understood across the stars. Human life was priceless, and those who took it would pay with their own. General Harper needed a ship that did not exist and a pilot who had nothing left to lose. She found the technology in a dusty garage with Ben Miller. Ben, the civilian engineer, had spent years working on impossible ideas, new ways to move through space, and new ways to hide a starship. Now, his impossible ideas were reality. The Phoenix was built in secret, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. It was small, quick, and almost completely invisible to all known alien sensors. Ben's genius was in the stealth system, a coat of energy that bent light and radiation around the hull. The ship needed a commander. Alex Stone, still numb from his loss, but fueled by a hard, clear purpose, was brought out of his quiet room. He was a perfect pilot, someone who could use the ship's impossible speed and stealth with unmatched precision. He was not flying for a medal. He was flying for the memory of his family. Ben Miller stayed on Earth, running the complex simulations and providing upgrades from the hidden command center. He spoke to Alex constantly, his quiet voice a link to the life Alex had left behind. Ben had built the Phoenix to be surgical. Alex was the knife. The mission was simple and insane. Jump the Phoenix deep into Cathar territory, past dozens of fortified star systems, strike the general responsible, and get out alive. It was a one-way trip, but Alex didn't care. The launch was silent, a brief shudder under the dark ocean waves. The Phoenix rose, its stealth coating humming to life, becoming a dark, invisible arrow aimed at the heart of the enemy. Alex Stone was alone, the ship's controls responding perfectly to his touch. The deep space jump was risky. It tore a hole through normal space, leaving a temporary, frightening void. When the ship came out of the jump, it was far behind the Cathar front lines, just where General Harper had planned. The target was the flagship of the Cathar general, a ship named the Iron Grip. It was huge, covered with weapons, and guarded by its own small fleet. They were arrogant, believing no one would ever dare attack them here. Alex Stone found them resting near a glowing nebula. The Phoenix was dark. The massive alien fleet did not even register its presence. Alex confirmed the life sign of the Cathar general. This was not random fighting. This was an execution. Alex activated the strike weapon. It wasn't a huge blast. It was a focused spear of pure energy designed by Ben Miller to slice through command decks and power cores, leaving the rest of the ship intact for just a moment. Alex held his breath, seeing the target perfectly lined up on his display. He fired. There was no sound in the void, only a sudden, silent line of destructive energy. The Iron Grip had no time to react. The beam hit the command bridge, and the ship's core immediately exploded. The destruction was catastrophic, but contained. The Iron Grip broke apart, a monument to the Cathar general's fatal confidence. The guard ships around it were shocked and confused. Alex did not stay to fight the remaining ships. He turned the Phoenix around and jumped back into the terrifying deep space void, leaving behind only the wreckage and the fear. The entire mission took less than 20 minutes. Back on Earth, General Harper watched the encrypted confirmation. The mission was complete. She stepped into the main communication room and broadcast a single clear message to the Galactic Concord and the remaining Cathar leadership. "We accepted your law. You failed. Now you will accept ours." The galaxy received the message and fell into stunned silence, suddenly realizing that the small, peaceful human species they had dismissed was now capable of a terrifying, precise vengeance. Earth was no longer silent.
The galaxy did not stay silent for long. The surgical strike that destroyed the Cathar general's flagship was an insult too great to ignore. The Cathar hegemony did not ask questions or send diplomats. They immediately mobilized their massive war fleet. They saw humanity not as an equal opponent, but as a pest that had dared to bite. Their goal was no longer simply to punish, but to completely erase Earth from the star charts. At the same time, the Galactic Concord, already shamed by its own fear, tried to contain the problem. They feared the Cathar, but they also feared a newly awakened, violent human race. They announced a crippling blockade around the Sol system, meaning no human ship could leave and no resources could come in. They hoped to starve Earth into submission before the Cathar arrived. General Harper was ready for both. She knew that the first battle would decide everything. If the Cathar could enter the inner solar system easily, Earth was lost. The defense line was set up far out in the chaotic, dense region of the asteroid belt, a confusing place of rock and shadows. The Phoenix was still the key, but it needed help. Alex Stone, now known only as the pilot to the rest of the defense force, was joined by a small group of specialists. Among them was Tactical Officer Chloe Davis. Chloe was sharp and quick-witted, with a natural talent for finding new ways to use old rules. She didn't follow military textbooks. She followed clever ideas. Where the Cathar relied on giant ships and heavy armor, Chloe relied on unpredictable human speed and guile. "They move like brick walls, sir," Chloe told Alex over the comms, looking at the tactical display showing the approaching enemy fleet. "They expect us to meet them head-on, like proper soldiers. We will not. We will dance." The Cathar fleet arrived, a dark, countless wave of ships, dwarfing anything humanity could put into the field. The battle began not with a grand charge, but with traps. The humans had rigged the asteroid field, making certain rocks explode on command or shift their orbits suddenly. The Phoenix, with Alex at the controls and Chloe calling out split-second maneuvers, was everywhere at once. The ship's invisibility system let it dart through the Cathar formation, firing small, precise shots at weak points: engine manifolds, communication arrays, and sensor domes. "Hard turn left, now!" Chloe yelled, her eyes glued to the internal sensors. "Use the gravity ripple from that large asteroid. Confuse their targeting computers." Alex obeyed instantly, feeling the weight of the Phoenix respond to his touch. The ship vanished and reappeared, striking a massive Cathar destroyer. The destroyer exploded, not because of the size of the human weapon, but because Alex had hit the single most important spot. The Cathar commanders became frustrated. They were losing ships to an enemy they could barely see, in a battle that made no sense to their rigid military minds. Their heavy firepower hit only empty space or was swallowed by the dense rock and ice of the belt. The human defense forces, tiny ships compared to the enemy, used the chaos created by the Phoenix to full effect. They would strike quickly and retreat, making the Cathar waste ammunition on ghosts. For hours the battle raged, and the superior alien fleet was slowly, humiliatingly ground down. But the Cathar had too many eyes. While Alex and Chloe were focused on the main fight, a small, fast group of Cathar scout ships, far away from the heavy fighting, had used a quiet jump route. They were not aiming for the defenses. They were aiming for a known human facility, the Deep Space Outpost Gamma. This outpost was used for refueling and housed several hundred military maintenance staff and civilian science teams. News reached General Harper as the main battle was finally turning in humanity's favor. The Cathar scouts had already attacked Outpost Gamma, using a brief, brutal bombardment. When the human relief ships arrived, the outpost was burning, its atmosphere vented into space. Many good people were gone, victims of a cold, cowardly act of vengeance. The human victory in the asteroid belt felt hollow. They had shown their tactical brilliance, but they had paid a terrible new price. The galaxy now knew that humanity could fight, but they also knew where to hit them to make them hurt. For Alex Stone, the pain was familiar, but the response was different. There were no more tears, only a burning, focused heat. The Cathar general he had destroyed was just a commander. The true architects of the suffering were still safe. The cost had risen, and so too must the vengeance.
The loss of Outpost Gamma stripped away the last layer of control. General Harper, her face lined with exhaustion but her eyes bright with resolution, stood with Alex Stone and Ben Miller in the underground command center. They had won the battle in the asteroid belt, but they had lost more good people. The Cathar had proven they would not stop until Earth was dust. "We can't fight them ship by ship," General Harper stated, pointing at a map showing the enemy's endless reinforcements. "They have armies, we have a blade. We must use the blade once, perfectly, to cut the throat of the whole hegemony." The real goal was no longer military, it was political. The Cathar hegemony was built on fear and order. If that order was broken, if their supreme leader was exposed, the whole structure would crumble. The final target was the hegemon's citadel, located deep on the Cathar homeworld, a place no foreign soldier had ever touched. Ben Miller had used the data from the battle to prepare the ultimate upgrade for the Phoenix. The ship's stealth was now perfect, absorbing even background radiation. It was built for one final, one-way journey. Alex, joined by Chloe Davis, would pilot the ship and lead the small ground team. This was a suicide mission, but the reward was the end of the war. The launch was tense. They slipped past the tight Galactic Concorde blockade easily. The Concorde was too worried about its own rules to notice the invisible ship passing through. Then the Phoenix made its jump, the deepest jump ever attempted by a human-built vessel. The trip was silent, cold, and terrifying. When they dropped out of the void, they were in the heart of Cathar space, the homeworld Krill dominating the viewscreen. The Cathar homeworld was a planet of vast angular cities and imposing dark structures. The citadel itself was a fortress, radiating power and arrogance. Alex landed the Phoenix in a silent, unused maintenance bay miles beneath the city's surface. He and Chloe put on their lightweight combat suits, enhanced with passive camouflage that turned them into moving shadows. Their mission was clear. Reach the High Council chamber. Locate the original war records, the evidence proving the Icarus attack was deliberate murder, and broadcast it across the entire galaxy. Moving through the Citadel was like moving through a maze built for fear. The corridors were massive, built for the Cathar's tall, cruel forms. Chloe's training as a tactical hacker was invaluable. She bypassed automated sensors, rerouted patrols, and opened doors with silent skill. Alex moved like a hunter, his focus absolute. He wasn't thinking about revenge, he was only thinking of the mission's steps. They finally reached the High Council floor. The atmosphere was thick with triumph. The Cathar High Council was celebrating their victory at Outpost Gamma, openly praising the scout team for their effective lesson. They saw Earth as defeated, contained. The supreme leader, the Grand Hegemon, spoke of forcing humanity into permanent slavery. Alex and Chloe entered the antechamber just as the meeting was nearing its end. Chloe quickly disabled the main security cameras and audio feeds using a jammer Ben had built. The noise of the celebration gave them cover. They located the main archive terminal, a massive alien crystal of memory. "We have 2 minutes, Alex," Chloe whispered into her comms. Her fingers flew across her custom hacking pad, translating the complex alien code. "The whole system is locked. Ben, you need to open the door now." Back on Earth, Ben Miller, surrounded by monitors, pushed his limits. He fought through layers of Cathar firewalls, his civilian mind proving more flexible and adaptable than their rigid military programming. "Got it!" Ben yelled, his voice strained. A hidden port opened in the Cathar system. Chloe instantly dropped a memory stick into the port. Data began to stream out. Within seconds, she found it. The Hegemon's personal order, signed and dated, calling the Icarus a target of opportunity and forbidding the Concord to know the truth. It was the crime, written in stone. "We have it," Alex said, his voice flat with cold satisfaction. He brought out the specialized device, a small, polished box. This was the broadcaster. Chloe linked the evidence to the broadcaster. 3, 2, 1. Broadcast. In that moment, the Cathar celebration ended. A terrifying alert screamed through the Citadel. The massive holographic screens in the High Council chamber, which were showing the Hegemon's face, suddenly changed. They showed the document, the order to kill the colonists, with the Hegemon's signature clearly visible. The broadcast went everywhere, to every Cathar ship, every city, and through Ben's back door right into the main channels of the Galactic Concord. The Grand Hegemon's face, moments before arrogant, twisted into sudden, shocked horror. He realized that the small pest, humanity, had not come for a battle. They had come for his truth. Cathar guards burst into the command center. Alex and Chloe were trapped, but their work was done. Alex simply looked at the shocked Hegemon and smiled, a cold, final, human smile. "Earth answered," he said simply, before turning to face the flood of alien soldiers. The moment the alert screamed through the Citadel, chaos took hold. The Grand Hegemon's face, pale with disbelief, was replaced on every screen by the cold, clear text of his own murder order. Cathar guards rushed the chamber, but they were too late and too confused. Alex and Chloe did not try to fight the flood of soldiers. They had completed their true mission. "Go! Go! Go!" Chloe yelled, deploying small, blinding flash charges and thick smoke grenades Ben had provided. The human gear was smarter than the Cathar armor. They used the darkness and the confusion of the taller aliens to slip back toward the hidden maintenance tunnel. Alex moved with the speed of pure focus, guiding Chloe through the smoke. Their escape was an extension of Ben Miller's genius. Back on Earth, Ben was now fighting an entire planetary defense network. He was not just opening one door, he was causing the whole Citadel's power system to flicker, creating perfect moments of sensor blackout for Alex and Chloe.
"They know you're in the sublevels, Alex," Ben's strained voice came through the comms. "I've rerouted a refuse hauler to clear your path, but it's only 5 seconds of cover. You need to be in the Phoenix now." They reached the hidden landing bay. The Phoenix was waiting, its ramp down. They scrambled inside, strapping themselves into the pilot and tactical seats. Alex did not look back. He needed to get the evidence safely home. He started the engines. Above the planet, the Cathar war machine was already shaking apart. The broadcast had gone to the ships, the cities, and the homes of the Cathar citizens. Many Cathar soldiers and civilians had believed their leader was honorable, fighting only defensive wars. Now they saw the truth. Their war was based on a simple, cruel lie. Division spread instantly, and the massive war fleet facing Earth began to break ranks. Ships turned on each other as commanders questioned their orders. Alex took the Phoenix up in a blinding, silent rush. On the bridge, Chloe controlled the external camouflage. They shot past huge Cathar ships, which were too busy fighting each other to notice the single, small human vessel. The stealth system held, and the Phoenix made its final jump, carrying the truth of the crime out of enemy territory. Back on Earth, the ship arrived to a silent, relieved welcome. General Harper embraced Alex and Chloe, not as heroes, but as survivors who had paid a high price. The evidence was safe. General Harper immediately requested an emergency meeting of the Galactic Concord. This time, she did not go to beg for justice. She went to deliver it. The Concord chamber was packed, full of nervous, fearful alien delegates. They all knew the Cathar hegemony was collapsing under the weight of the human evidence, but they did not yet know what Earth would demand. They expected revenge, a call for war, money, or territory. General Harper, standing tall in her uniform, played the recording of the hegemon's order, followed by images of the shattered Icarus and the destroyed outpost Gamma. She did not raise her voice. She simply stated the facts. For too long, she told the silent delegates, you allowed the Cathar to rule through fear. You ignored a murder because it was convenient. The crime was committed by the Cathar, but the silence, the lack of justice, that was committed by the galaxy. She then delivered Earth's terms. Earth demanded no colonies, no territory, and no money. Earth demanded only one thing: that the Galactic Concord be rebuilt to have teeth. It must have a new, powerful body with human oversight, dedicated to holding every power, including Earth, accountable for war crimes. The hegemon must be tried, and his fleet must be disarmed and repurposed for humanitarian aid. The delegates were shocked. Humanity was not seeking domination, it was seeking law. Because Earth had proven its military might, the Phoenix strike, its political cleverness, the broadcast, and its moral authority, the demand for law, not land, the Concord had no choice but to agree. The Cathar hegemony was officially dissolved. The other races, finally freed from Cathar fear, looked at Earth not as a warmonger, but as the quiet, capable enforcer of truth. The war was over. Alex Stone found a small measure of peace. He had given up everything, but his family's loss had brought justice to the entire galaxy. He stood on a hill overlooking a newly rebuilt memorial, a place of light and water. He was no longer the pilot. He was just Alex. He knew the galaxy was still a dangerous place, but now every power in the cosmos understood one simple truth. Humanity was fragile, yes, but when pushed too far, its response was not fear, but a measured, brilliant, and terrifying vengeance that changed the stars forever.